Hello? Now it's Shredder stream? Hmm. Uh, yeah, the naming isn't what it looks like. Okay, well, I muted it and unmuted it 3 times, and for some reason, the third time made it work. That absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. Um, when you do the same thing multiple times, you really shouldn't get different results with a computer, but okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. I don't know why. It normally never has a problem getting the Yeti mic feed coming in. But there we go. Anyway, we're up and going now. So let me pull this out of the way. And yeah, the video there in the background was just a recording of me doing an image of the Black Viper character for the Dungeons and Dragons book that came out a while back. Man, I forget which book that was. Was it? The treasure hunt one in the city. Anyway, whichever one that was, Dragon Heist. It was for the Dragon Heist book, and it is being played at like 10 times speed or something, 5 times speed. So that gives you something to look at. But no, not a new workstation or mic. That's why I was confused, because I've used this setup many times and never had that problem before. But I appreciate you guys hanging in there, and also thank you. I really am honored that anyone takes the time out of their day to come out and join me for these live streams. So I appreciate it. Of course, I'm here for you guys to answer any questions that you've got. You're welcome to just put them in the chat, put swatches at the beginning to address it to me. It will flag it in yellow, and I will try to answer it during the program. I had put out an open call on the Facebook group, but I didn't get any write-in request of questions the last time that I checked it. So I don't have anything to go off yet. Okay. I was saying, I was watching a little video earlier. Some of you guys might be interested in it if you aren't already familiar with them. But there is a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew, which is following a group of special effects artists. And they do a variety of different videos. They have really popular videos where it's visual effects artists react to, and it's various movies and TV shows special effects. And I really liked it because they give you a bit more of the inside look, because this is what they do for a living on a daily basis. And so they'd be like, okay, how do you think they did that shot? And they kind of break it down and they talk about, well, I bet that was practical. And then they probably blue screened that on the background. And then they probably combined it like this. And I found it very interesting. I'm not in special effects myself. I've always been interested in it. And it's pretty cool if you haven't checked them out. Their latest episode was getting together with one of their stunt friends. He's a stunt man. And they set on fire one of the guys. And they talk about the process that you go through in movies in order to actually light someone on fire and them be okay. So, yeah, cool videos if you haven't checked them out yet. Milo asks, swatches, what is the fastest way to improve your drawing? Milo, or Milos, I'm not sure if the S is silent or not. Are you talking about just improve a particular drawing, or are you talking about improving as an artist in general? Because there's 2 different answers there. Let me know which one. Clarify that and I'll answer it for you. Justice says, do you have any pets? Yes, I do. I have two cats. I have a gray cat named Fuzzy, and I have had since she was a little kitten. I guess she's probably about 7 now, something like that, short-haired. As far as cats go, she's sort of an introvert. She's not a real sweetie. The other one is a little brown, just country outside cat that came with the house that I moved into. The previous owners left the kitty there because they couldn't take him overseas with them. So I sort of just adopted him when I moved in. And they really don't like each other, so Fuzzy, the gray one, stays inside and brown kitty stays outside. Yep. Pankaka says, have you ever got scammed and worked without getting paid? Trying to remember, certainly not recently. Trying to remember when I was starting out, if I ever got into that. No, I don't think I don't recall ever being straight up scammed. I do remember clients just taking as long as possible in order to pay me though. So if it's, they have 30 days to pay or 60 days to pay, they will pay on the exact last day. They're allowed to do that. It's inconvenient for me. I would rather be paid sooner, but I've done the same thing on paying my rent and my electric bill, so I can't really fault them for that. But if you handle your business with, a little forethought, then you can keep yourself from being scammed. The biggest thing is not handing over the finished files in full resolution until you get paid, unless you're dealing with a major company. So a company like Hasbro that owns Wizards of the Coast that I do images for, they're a big company and they're reliably going to pay you. They have an entire finance department that deals with just that sort of thing. But it's the smaller clients and the individuals that you probably want to either be prepaid for or be paid 50% up front just to cover that. And I think the 50-50, 50 up front, 50 when it's finished, is a good way to do it with new clients or with not big companies. Hopefully that works. Ben says, Swatches, why did you decide to become a graphic designer in your 20s and not just stick to art and illustration career from the beginning? Well, I was 19 when I got offered the chance to come up and work for ministry as their graphics guy. And I wasn't making a full-time job. I wasn't really earning that much from my professional work. And I wanted to be involved in some of the projects. And I wanted to, at the time I kind of wanted to move out of the house. So I took that opportunity. I just didn't stick with art as my primary focus during that time. I guess the world was kind of new. I had never had a full-time job before, never lived on my own. So for a while it was just really, it was fine. I was learning new skills. I was doing new things, meeting new people, and that was okay. I wish I would have switched out earlier, but I don't regret the first while that I was doing it. Milo says, Swatches, on drawings overall and not particular one. Well, Milos, on the last ARTalk episode, if you go back to that, which is like live stream 61 or 62, I answer that several times, but let me just run through a couple of the points. But you can go back and watch that one, and I think I answer it like 3 or 4 different times in different ways on the last episode. So for this one, I'll say, how to improve overall is to have a more focused approach to your education. A lot of people practice, but they do very ineffective practicing. And one of the best things that you can do is practice where you are learning from where you're learning from a teacher, from some sort of source other than just yourself. If you go in this and you're just trying to trial and error and improve on your own without any outside influence, it's the slowest way to do it, because you literally have to make all of the mistakes yourself and then you have to learn from them. And there's a lot of other people that have gone through the same sort of thing, and you can learn from what they've learned from. So watch for opportunities to take classes, to take courses, whether they're online or in person. Watch videos, but not just watch videos, but practice the things that you watch. And that's also one of the mistakes I see students making when they're learning, is they'll watch a video and be like, oh, I just learned that. No, you didn't. You didn't learn it yet. You just watched it. You've got to put it into practice before it's really real. You also use the analogy, I'll use the analogy again, which is, say that I want to go learn Taekwondo, and the instructor shows me the moves to do. Just because I watched him do it doesn't mean I know how to do it correctly. I would have to practice that over and over and over until I personally could recreate the moves and control my body in the way that he is showing me to do it. So don't get in the habit of just absorbing information, because at some point it just becomes redundant. You've got to practice it for it to actually become part of your skill set. Moving on to the next one. Martin says, hey Clint, a colleague start to make illustrations for Legend of the Cryptids and is rushing the illustrations to get more money per month. Can be quite dangerous, this, right? Well, yes and no. If you're compromising the quality of the work, then yeah, that could get dangerous. Do you want to rush in order to make more money? Well, no problem with that. I mean, that's on the artist. If they want to take their time or they want to rush, yeah, it all comes back to, if they're keeping a quality that both they and the company are happy with, then go whatever speed you want to. But if you get so concerned with money and going fast that it starts compromising things, then you probably do need to slow down, because in the end, it might lose you that position and that opportunity, and that could end up really hurting more than it's helping. Netlazarap, I'm sure I didn't say that right. So you're telling us not to finalize the product, rather sell the idea. Oh, okay. I think you're going back and mentioning about the 50-50 payment. So what you would do in that case is say, hey, we haven't worked before together on a project, so what I would like to do is do a 50% upfront payment. And so they pay that to you. You start the image, you finish the image, you give them the image, then they give you the other 50%. So you're both stepping into this and putting 50% of your kind of skin in the game. They give you half the money, and then you invest the time into the image. And if they're not willing to do that, then do not give them the full resolution final image before they pay you. So say, we will only pay you when it's finished. Okay, then I will create the image, and then I will send you like a 500 pixel version of the final image when it's done, just to prove that it's done and for you to see what the image sort of looks like. And then once you confirm, okay, yeah, it is done to my specifications, but it's not high enough resolution that I can actually use, but they will feel safer than paying you at that point. So two different options about the way you go about it. Also says, have you ever tried the different aspects of concept art? As far as notice, you are into characters, but what about environment, props, matte painting, solids, and tech, and what about storyboarding? Definitely not as much. The illustration definitely keeps me more busy, and I get a lot more offers for that sort of thing than I do for concept art. But yeah, I have done some. Characters is mainly what I've known for, but I've done some environment and props. I don't think I've done any real matte painting. I mean, I've done a couple little studies, but nothing real intensive, and not much tech. Just for storyboarding, I've done some little sketches myself, just to kind of practice the idea of storyboarding, but don't have a lot of experience in it. Mark says, I asked you about the Procreate and you missed it. What do you think about Procreate? And if you've tried it, what do you think of it? And recently got an iPad Pro, 12.9 inches, and I'm happy with it. It's been a while since I picked up Procreate, but I do have it on my iPad Pro, and I was very happy with it to the extent that I have used it. I've also seen some people do professional work on it. I think it is a legit option as far as, digital painting interface. Yeah, I'm positive on it. I'm certainly not a Procreate master, and if you have Procreate questions, I'm not the one to go to. I've probably used it a total of less than 10 hours, so I'm not the guy to go to. I played around with kind of the functionality of it to see what it can do and to test out the different tools, that sort of thing. But in the end, I usually just end up working on my iMac, and works better. Now I'm more used to that interface. But if I am going away from home, then I might take my iPad with me and do some sketching on it. Ninja15 says, where do you get business knowledge or information relative to the art craft? Well, you can Google for it. There is a lot of sites and YouTube channels dedicated to the art side of the industry, and that's probably the best place to go. There was a company I came by at a convention, and they had some good information, and I believe it was Drawn and Drafted by, and you could check them out, Drawn and Drafted, and they had stuff about legal documents, templates for license agreements, for ownership agreements, and they had guidelines and all kinds of information like that. If you don't know where to start, that's not a bad place to look right there. There are some other YouTube channels. I can't remember the name of them. One Fantastic Week I want to think that they deal with some of that as well, kind of the business side of it. Otherwise, general business books, business knowledge is pretty universal. How profit and loss works, how working with, time investment versus, what you're getting out of it. Marketing holds a lot the same. So even just get some of the most popular business books that you would see on, New York Times bestsellers, and just grab those, read those, and those will give you a pretty good basis too. Mitch says, did you have a model pose for this image running in the background? A model pose? I did have I posed for the general pose itself for that particular image, but I didn't have like some lady in character in that costume posing it, no. I kind of broke it down that I did have a reference photo for the face from a lady that I just posed the body and modified my body shape in order to match the character that it would be, and completely made up the, all the garb and stuff based on the provided sketch. I don't think I know who did the original sketch, but somebody created the concept sketch of what that particular character was supposed to look like, and then I just translated that into a more finished painting. Yep. Mark says, thank you so much, mate. Really love your work, and I'm in love with your value video. It helped me a lot to not use a lot of unnecessary values in the background to keep it clear and focused on the character. Thank you, Mark. I'm glad you found it useful. I thought the value episode was pretty good, concise, a lot of information in there that's very applicable. And yeah, glad it's helping you out with your work. On the character, when it comes to splash art, yeah. Any kind of splash art, I automatically think of, League of Legends characters, splash art, very dynamic. And that's one of the things that you see a lot is major control over the overall value schemes to keep the characters really popping out from that background. Either they'll give a really nice strong light on one side so the character pops out, or they'll really distance the background and make it like hazy or light values so that their silhouette stands out. Some excellent dynamic art in the League of Legends splash. Ben says, let me back up. Nat says, is there any chance to see any of your paper sketches? I assume you have been sketching all moments when it kicks in. I think one's no-go full digital. I don't do that much pencil sketching, and when I do, it's not usually, like I've got one little sketchbook with me. I don't have that much in it, and I don't do that much detailed stuff in it, but we could certainly do holding it up to the camera is really not going to look good. I would need the camera properly mounted and lit on the book so that you could see it. But I don't do that much in my sketchbook. I do a lot of stuff digital. So it's mainly just when I'm needing to toss down some ideas or work out quick character designs. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Maybe we'll do that at some point. Being a digital artist, Ben says, is being sat behind the same screen for massive amounts of time. Is there a way to improve your environment, surroundings, and experience of creating art every day? Yeah, being stuck behind a screen for a long time, it really is not conducive to keeping real creative. So, one of the things that I really like is keeping the windows open with as much sunlight coming in, and just having a little change of, sunlight in the room with, clouds and stuff is good. Another thing is taking breaks. I try to take breaks like every half hour, 45 minutes. Get up, drink a glass of water, go check the mail. You don't want to turn into just this big procrastination thing, but standing up, getting a quick change of pace is good. Something else that I do is just change the position of my work area. So I'll get my desk and turn my desk 45 degrees, 90 degrees, just so I'm in the same space, but I'm in a slightly different arrangement, and it just breaks up the monotony from keeping it the same way for perhaps years. Good music can help too, or audiobooks. Depending on what kind of work, if you don't need a lot of heavy focus, then having that sort of thing just to keep passing the time can be good as well. Mitch says, are you still in Hawaii? No, I'm not. I came back from Hawaii last December, so I'm back here in Tennessee. Nat says, what about your experience about your visual library? Can you clarify that, Nat? What about the visual library? I assume you mean like your mental visual library, and I would need you to expound on that question. Brendan asks, Swatches, what is your process for a personal piece? Do you make a brief or just do a series of notes or what? No, I don't write up an actual brief for it. I usually will just start doing some simple sketches. I will often make a small list where I just list out things that I might want in the image, or I will write down kind of the influences that I would like to add in. I also might make lists of the different kinds of props or characters that might be in there. Then I will start going about collecting influences into a folder. It's really not that different from the way that I would work a commissioned piece. Just the painting process itself of, okay, I have an idea of what I'm going to do, and now I'm going to do some thumbnail sketches to work out the basic layout or work out the basic character designs. And then I will start finding some references or influences that will help add into that, and then do a more refined drawing and continuing on like I would with a normal painting. Inverse says, what is the best way to learn character design or concept art? Well, Inver, I would be remiss if I did not mention that I have a character design ebook on swatchesart.com. So that's certainly something I would point you to. I put in a lot of the stuff that I learned into that ebook. I think it's about 65 pages long or so. And that should help you have at least a basis to be working from. There is a lot of videos out there and classes. I think, Schoolism probably has one. Look for mentorships in character design. Character design is such a popular subject that I would suggest working with somebody that can help point you in the right direction and critique your work, because it's one of those things that somebody could start explaining the idea to you and be like, oh, okay, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. I don't know why I didn't think about doing it that way. And you can save yourself a lot of trouble. Going back to the same thing that we talked about earlier, just they can help save you. A good teacher can save you a lot of time having to learn the same thing. So, yeah. Or concept art, again, take a look for series courses. And there's a lot of good ones out there because it's so popular. YouTube itself has a lot of good examples of concept art, workflows, and advice. I would suggest making a list of different things that you want to learn how to do. Make a list of the different approaches that people use and experiment with each one. Some people use like the lasso tool a lot in order to grab big shapes and mask the area that they want to work in, and they work from back to front. Some people use quick 3D models that they kind of photo bash on top of, and experiment with each one and know several different ways that you could go about it, because some of them are going to click for some people more than others, and you want to find several that click for you and then just learn how to do those better. Yep. Mark says, I wanted to ask if you take commissions, and another question is, do you offer teaching personally, not through Patreon? And if so, I'd love to work with you as a personal teacher. Do I take commissions? Yes and no. I am freelance, so basically every project that I take is a commission. I do keep most of my commissions for bigger companies or bigger titles, and I don't hardly take any commissions from like individuals. I just found that it's not usually worth the time. Bigger companies are less of a hassle. I've been working with them for years. I know what to expect. They're reliable. I know I'm going to get paid. I know what they're expecting. And the other big side to working with new clients is they might not know how to work with an artist, and that can cause a lot of delays. They don't know how to ask you the right questions. They don't know how to give you the right direction for you to know what to do in order to help fulfill the project. So that's one of the reasons I just don't take many commissions. I've considered starting to do some like sketch commissions, but it would be a very straightforward, you pay me, I sketch it, and then it's done, where there would be no back and forth, no revisions. It's kind of like a tattoo artist, right? You find one that you like, that you trust, you pay them, and then that's it. You don't like get done with your tattoo and say, well, can we just adjust this or that? It's like, no, you let them do their thing. So I've thought about doing that, and if I get into doing more quicker commissions, I'm probably going to be on that line. Question, I don't know if you've already answered this one, says Luca. In your experience, when do clients pay you just the illustration cost, and when you get royalties too? Yeah, that's really dependent on the property and what kind of project you're working on. Generally, I find that most clients would rather just pay you a flat rate than deal with royalties. However, sometimes a client does not have all the money up front to pay you, and that is where royalties might be an option. And of course, royalties is you are making a cut of the money from future profits. Say there is a Kickstarter. John Smith is going to make a new board game, and he thinks it's going to just be amazing. And he's putting it up on Kickstarter. And the whole point of Kickstarter is it's going to raise all the money that he needs in order to make the game. Now, he does need to get art created in order to show that this is what the game is going to look like. So he might need 5 pieces or so created before the actual game so that he can display it on the websites and in the Kickstarter video, etc. Now, he hasn't raised his money yet, so you could come to him with an option like, well, I will charge you 50% or 30% of what I normally would, but I need to have X amount of royalties from the game for the next, and usually put a time frame on it, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. Probably not in perpetuity. Most clients don't want to go that long. It gets too much of a hassle to deal with. So you could say, I'll take 50% up front right now, and I'll take 5% of royalties over the next year from gross sales. And that also, you would have to put in there in the contract exactly what you're committing to, which is, I'm going to do 10 more images for you, whatever. I'm just making up numbers. So that is an instance where you might do royalties over up front. Now, from the artist side, there is risk because you're just having to go on faith that the numbers that he will be reporting to you are the accurate numbers. So if he says, oh yeah, we sold 100 copies this month, do you know that? Can you confirm that? Because what if he sold 1,000 and he's just saying that he sold 100 in order to pay you 10% of what you're actually owed? So if you do have royalties, then you also need to have access to some way checking the numbers to make sure that they're accurate. Okay, a couple of things to think about. Hopefully that gives you a general idea of how to approach that. Ninja 15 says, can you name a piece and briefly explain how it breaks the rules? Can you name a piece and briefly explain how it breaks the rules? I mean, like an art piece that is an exception to general rules. Interesting question. One that I would normally. It's open-ended questions that are difficult when you have to like run through all this stuff in your head on the spot. I will take just a moment to try to think of a good example. If I can't think of one, then I might have to come back to it at a different episode. An image that shouldn't work but does. I mean, it's just offhand. It's sort of the deer in the headlights. Nothing is really coming to me offhand. Yeah, maybe I could talk about that. Oh, I was also going to throw out another idea. If you guys would be interested, I don't know if you're interested or not. So I just thought of it. I was going to toss it out there. If you would find it interesting, I would be curious about doing an episode where we just go out to ArtStation, the gallery website, and just talk about some of the art that we look at. I'm not going out there to bash anybody. All right, that's not it. I'm not interested in bashing on any colleagues out there. I'm talking about going out there and just like, okay, this is cool, and let's learn from this art that we're looking at. This particularly nice. Look how he's handled the forms here. Look how he's done that. Pay attention to how he's handled, the edges over here on this material. You can notice that he's using, and just go image by image and kind of talk about some cool stuff out on ArtStation and breaking it down and learning from it. If you find that interesting, then let me know and I'll consider doing an episode like that. If not, oh well, just one of those ideas. Mitch says Ryan Minerdine or Dan Luvissi, who's better in your opinion? Man, if I knew either one of those names, I would be able to tell you. But as I don't know who those people are, I'm not the guy to ask. Sorry. Nat says, my earlier comment was about how you fill yourself up with inspiration. If you work so hard, even you pull the curtains not to see the clouds wandering daylight and artificially modify it. I have to reread that, sorry. My earlier comments about how you fill yourself up with inspiration. If you work so hard, even if you pull the curtains not to see the clouds wandering. Okay, if you're talking about how do I kind of stay inspired if you're working long hours, I'm going to assume that your question is sort of going that direction. One of the first things is health, and the better shape you are, the more energy your body is going to produce and the more stress that it can take before it really starts affecting you. So I do try to prioritize staying in decent shape, doing some exercises during the day, making sure that I'm keeping a decent, vitamins and that sort of thing. And I know that's important because I've come from a place, if you watch this channel for very long, I've come from a place where I wasn't in good health, and it drastically affected the quality of my work and how long I could work and how long I could focus. So that is one of those things that I'm always doing in order to try to help. Another thing is, again, taking breaks helps. I have a episode, I believe, of Vibrance where I talk about working on a timer, and that's something that really has helped me a lot over the years. So I will set a 30-minute timer, and then I will have no music, no videos, no anything, and I will just turn on the timer, and for those 30 minutes, I'm just drawing, I'm just painting, etc. And even if I'm really tired, even I really don't want to paint, I can summon up the energy to paint for 30 minutes. Like, it's just 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I take a break. So that is one of the ways that you can kind of get your body to work for you a little bit. Sleep is another one. Body really needs to have sleep, and your creativity needs to be replenished when you sleep. So make sure you're not skipping on that. Other art also inspires me. When I feel like I'm really stuck, I can go out there and look at some other art and just seeing, okay, other people have done this. This is doable. And here are some ways that I can do it well and get ideas from it. And I get inspired by watching the work of other people. Oh, sorry, yeah, I kind of skipped part of your question earlier. Somebody, I forgot whose question it was, but said something about private teaching. But yes, I do. That is, you can go out to art-mentor.com, and that is where I do the video consultations. And you can schedule a half-hour or hour consultation, and we can go over whatever you need to. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to go out there. I will let you know I don't have any dates available at the moment, because from now to the end of the month, I have a very full schedule, and I'm not going to be taking any consultations between now and the end of the month. But after I clear these projects off, I should open it back up, and that would be a good way to get some private education. I am also considering doing like a I would say like a multi-pack for the consultations. So if you wanted to commit to doing 4 consultations, then I could drop the price down, maybe, get one for 50% off or something like that. Anyway, one of those things I'm looking for. And I'm also still moving on with the idea of doing courses, where it would be 8-week courses with weekly or twice weekly live streams with the private class. And that would also be a good way to learn, but those are months and months out. So, yeah. Braun says, watches, art, non-art related question. What is the best way to keep your back healthy? Any tips on that? I feel like lots of artists are struggling with back problems, but nobody talks about that. Very true, Braun, and bronchitis. It is definitely an issue, and it has certainly been an issue for me for the last 18, almost 20 years. I had mild scoliosis when I was younger, but it was juvenile. So it didn't, once I passed through puberty, it really didn't get any worse. And I went to just a little kind of background of where I'm coming at it and why we'll give some of my advice. Um, just within the last 6 months, my back really started bothering me more, and I'll get a spot in between my shoulder blades where the vertebrae will slip out of position, and really, really uncomfortable. And I went to a physical therapist who worked with me, and we determined that one of my left hip joint will kind of tighten up, and it will get one side of it to be literally an inch to inch and a half higher than my right side. And what that's doing is causing my spine to be pointing off the wrong direction. Then the center of my back there between my shoulder blades is trying to keep my head straight. So it's constantly trying to hold this bend in my back because my hips are out of line. And that's eventually what causes the vertebrae to pull out of line, as I eventually learned. And by learning a couple of stretches to do to keep my hips straight, I have almost completely removed all the back pain. So if you are dealing with back pain, I'm going to suggest you go to a physical therapist, because it might just be that your back is not actually the problem. Of course, posture is something that we all need to be aware of, and take the time to look at what a good position is for you to be working at your computer, that you're not setting too high up or too low. If you are setting where your shoulders are high, then that's not going to work. That's really going to start hurting your neck quickly. Likewise, you don't want your arms to be hanging, because that is also really going to affect your neck. Find a chair that helps keep your back in a good alignment where you're vertical, and watch the distance that you are from your screen. You don't want to be leaning into your screen. You should still be able to just sit in a normal upright position. I have seen some products that I haven't used, but I am interested in using. One is like a little device that goes on the back of your neck. I don't know, it's sticky, I guess. I'm not sure how it stays there. But it's like the little sensor that goes to your phone. And it will beep if you lean too far forwards. And so it just reminds you to sit back up. I could see that being useful, as just posture is one of those things that you forget about. You just don't notice that you're not holding a good posture. Another one is the straps that go right here, then they just connect right there between your shoulder blades, and it holds your shoulders back in a proper upright position. And I think that could also be good. So if you have a problem with that sort of thing, then there are some options out there. And I'm really gonna suggest physical therapist over chiropractor. I've literally gone to half a dozen chiropractors over the last 15 to 20 years, and none of them ever thought to ask me or check on my hips to see if that was affecting my back. And I just went to the one physical therapist, and they were like, hey, I think this is the problem. So, and they also talked about some stretches that I can do in order to keep things better. Also, let me toss this out to you. The therapist is a local friend of mine. So if you would be interested in having me do an episode where I'm talking with her and let her address this issue as a licensed physical therapist, then let me know. Because, like you said, it does affect a lot of artists. And if you would like to know what their input is from, therapist side, then we can go over that. Mark says, what would you do if the character is wearing a red metallic armor and the background is a red cloud background? How would you make it pop? Is it more contrast or add a blue color? If the background and the foreground are both essentially the same color, then your real option is going to probably be using values, where maybe the shoulder piece is going to be rounding into shadow as it goes over. And that way you have essentially a really dark or black edge where the front part is nice and lit, but it goes dark, and then you have the red light behind it. That would make it pop. If you can add I'm not a big fan of just adding rim lights on everything, but that is a valid use of a rim light. If you're going to have like a bright light that's just catching along the edge and tells a little bit of the form, that could work as well. Or if you do have the option of bringing in some other colors, so that maybe most of the background sky is red, but part of it shifts to being either more difference in hue, like I said, like a blue, or if you can just play with the saturation enough where the red is doling down instead of being like a vibrant red. Niforenko says, I really like the ArtStation idea. Well, that's one. Thank you. One vote for ArtStation. What about if we asked for several artists and you'd put a poll asking people about who they want to see. I'd definitely love to see something like that about Saki Machan work and the League of Legends splash artists. Really love their work. Oh, so instead of just doing it, are you talking about the art station? You were saying more about, hey, let's have a vote about which artist's work that we're going to look at. That could also work. We can do something that way. Itahisa says, is it worth having a stand at a convention in the sense of getting job offers? Oh, interesting. Itahisa, you're probably talking about having a Artist Alley booth at a Comic-Con convention. And that is a valid option. Obviously, it comes with no guarantees. Sorry, there was like a fuzzy or something on my nose. Certainly no guarantee that you'll find work, but it is guaranteed that you won't get those connections if you don't go. It really only has upside unless you're putting out a lot of money, and most artist alleys don't put out that much money. But if you do go to a convention like that, it's probably less likely that the art director will see your table and come up to you and offer you work than if you go to the convention and you go to each of their booths and talk to them. I would start probably by not having... Yeah, if you're not putting out a lot of money, I would say go for it. But realize that you are probably needing to be the one that is going to go out there and try to make the connections, and that they aren't necessarily going to be as motivated to try to come find you and build a connection and offer you work. So if you do have a table there, I think it does example that, hey, I'm making an effort and here's my stuff. And you likely want to go with a friend so that the friend can watch the table while you go out and associate with other people. And you can just say, hey, I'm at this convention. I've got, Artist Alley table 105. And while I was here, I was hoping to meet with an art director from your company. And maybe he could give me some feedback on his work, or if we could discuss, any projects that might be a good fit coming up. So something on that lines. There are some articles out there about how to make the most from going to conventions in that way. So I Google around for that. I talked to an artist just a while back, and he was saying that for the first 2 years of his freelance career, every job that he made was based some way on the connections that he had made at art events. Yeah. Lucas says, question, without being too specific, in your experience with clients like Wizard, do they generally give you a standard rate, or does it change from artist to artist? No, a company like Wizard is usually very set. They don't want to have to spend the time negotiating with every single artist. They just work with too many people too much to have to be going through negotiations with every single one of them on every piece. So they do have flat rates, but the rates do change depending on what you're doing for them. There is higher class art that is generally more complicated, or marketing pieces you're going to get paid for. So it's a tier of payment based on that, not based on who they're actually working for. Now, if you get down to more individual clients, they might do that. If they like your work better than somebody else's, they might do that. But generally for a big company, no. Friend M, really bad at colors. Do I start with dark unsaturated colors or dark saturated colors? I would start with whatever color the thing should be. Would be the right way to do it. So I always start with this color is not a real good approach. It seems a bit inflexible. So I would start with whatever the base color is in the base value of that thing, and taking into account the values. Now, if you don't know yet what like the lighting and shading arrangement is on the scene, then put things in their base tones, slightly darker than they would normally be. And then you can use multiply and linear light layers, multiply for shadows, and you can just drop in shadow tones in one layer, and then you can use the linear light layer to paint in where the lights will be in some sort of like dark brown. And then you can have a normal paint layer over top of both of those, and that's where you kind of blend all of it together to make it look more natural. Okay, where was that? Up here. Frederick says, hey Glenn, finally able to catch a live stream. Awesome, man. I'm glad you're able to join. Thank you. My question is how to overcome depression, as it has been in my life and always getting me down, questioning if something matters really. Frederick, I'm sorry. You know me, if you've been around, I've dealt with that. And I don't wish that on anybody. But I am here to tell you I've been there, and I'm also not there now. So it is possible to get through it. What I have found is that health, more than anything, is the biggest factor in depression. And there were things in my life that were affecting me, and they were legitimate issues, but they only seemed a lot bigger than they actually were because of the way that my body system was. And I'm going to really suggest you please take the time, and I know that you probably don't have a lot of energy, but educate yourself a bit on gut health and gut health connected to depression. This is a very big topic, and doctors are really beginning to see the connection between the two. I'm going to suggest that you try to balance your system out that way. For me, I'm not saying that this is true for everybody that has depression. I'm just saying that I've seen it true for me. I've seen it true for some of my friends. I have met other people that were just acquaintances that it was true for them. So I do know that it's true for a lot of people. But health can make a big difference. And for a lot of people, having like an overgrowth of the bad bacteria in the gut is what does it. And just starting to eat better isn't going to do it, because if the bad bacteria is already really rampant and grown, then what it is essentially going to do is choke your system from being able to absorb good stuff even if you eat it. So you've got to be able to get rid of it. I personally used the Triplex from Plexus Worldwide, the company Plexus Worldwide. I am technically an ambassador for Plexus, but that's because I order it every single month and you get a discount if you are an ambassador. Now, if you want to go out, you want to look into it, if you can get it yourself, I'd say go for it. Say that I sent you, say that I don't send you, I don't care. But this stuff works. It works consistently for almost everybody. The other thing is just know that it isn't the end. And I know that that's where depression really starts to screw your mind up, is you think that this is the way that life has to be, and I'm telling you it's not. Okay? When you're going through depression, it sucks away your emotional energy. So you can't care about anything the way that you would want, or very much at all. So as you start feeling better, then you will start being able to care about stuff more. Also, connections to other people are really important. A huge factor in depression is loneliness and not having good social connections to others. So please also make that a priority. I know that can be one of the hardest things. It certainly was one of the hardest things for me during that time. And it's never been a real easy thing for me to keep good social connections. And that is just something else I've been doing over the last year or so, a lot of studying on neuroplasticity, kind of the science of the brain, how the brain works, the brain's ability to adapt to both positive and negative influences and environments. And that's part of the way that the brain works, is it thrives in a positive social environment and it begins to wilt in a isolated or negative social environment. So if you have some people around you, just say, hey, I'm going through this kind of depressive time, and I would appreciate it if you would make me, invite me to stuff. I know that right now I don't really have the energy, and I might not show it, but I really would appreciate it. And, try your best to make an effort to be there and just be honest with people around you. I've found that if you're actually honest with most people about, hey, I'm going through this right now, most people will say, all right, man, okay, I'll work with you, or I understand, or they'll have a little compassion. So don't be afraid to go to your close people and just tell them that you're going through a hard time, but you're working on it, and that you would just appreciate if they kind of have your back. Hope that helps. If you have some more comments, you're welcome to ask me any follow-up questions like that. You can shoot me a message here on YouTube. You go up to Facebook, you can shoot me a message on Facebook. I'd be happy to help. It can make a world of a difference in order to have somebody who just kind of gives a damn when you're in a hard spot. So let me know. Ztage Game says, I'm struggling to find out what I like or enjoy to paint and draw. Any tips on that? Generally, I see people having kind of the opposite problem where they like doing too many things. So you're struggling to find what you like or enjoy painting. Any tips on that? I would say, kind of go for the buffet. Try a bunch of different stuff. Try a bunch of different styles and see what clicks for you. Otherwise, instead of focusing on, kind of subject matter, then just spend some time trying to learn maybe new medias, new styles, and maybe it's the kind of art that you're doing. So try cartooning for a bit. Try some classical painting for a bit. Try concept art or illustration. Try oil paints or pastels. And so shifting that around a little bit may give you an idea at least of things that you don't like, and it'll help direct you to things that you do like. Ronnie says, I'm being serious here, but I had bad back pain because of posture. So I took a short broomstick and shoved it down the back of my shirt. Actually worked. Hey, no, I hear you. Something like that can work. You're adding a support structure for your back. That's similar to what I was talking about with the straps that pull your shoulders back. If you can get something there that just sort of straightens the back up, and what you're doing is you're letting the back muscles relax. You're taking some of the pressure off of them. Something else that can certainly help with the back issue is getting massages. Not only do they feel good, but again, let the muscles relax a little bit if they've been holding a bad position for a long time. And of course, keep in mind that if you have bad posture, or if you have back problems, it is rarely, if ever, a quick fix, because it's a habit or a position that your back has been in for likely years. And so you're not going to fix it in 10 minutes. It's something that's probably going to take weeks or months in order to train your muscles and yourself in order to do it better. Which method is the best or most efficient way to get clean edges in painting, lasso tool or a layer mask? It really doesn't matter. They both essentially do the same thing by different means. Personally, I like layer mask because it's a little more flexible. The layer mask allows me to paint things in or out, so I can have actually more information on the layer and choose when to show it or not to show it. Whereas on the lasso tool, you can't. You're never going to have more information there than what you initially lassoed. So, but the lasso tool certainly has its own merits as well. You can do other things with it. Nat says the physical therapist vlog would be nice. Okay, well, I will consider that. And I'll have to talk to her too. I don't know what her schedule is like. What you love to watch is usually what you love to draw. That's true. Or just go out and look around for stuff that you enjoy looking at. What kind of movies do you watch? You watch, fantasy movies? You watch sci-fi? And try drawing some of that stuff. Physical therapist would be great. I think posture should be added to drawing or painting fundamentals. Unfortunately, it is very important and easily neglected thing at the same time. True. Ben says, Swatches, how many weeks or months of paid work do you typically have lined up in advance? Do you feel secure in your job? It really jumped there when I did that. Hang on. Whoa, man. Where was that? I generally have 1 to 2 months out is scheduled. So almost always at least a month, to 6 weeks, up to 8 weeks, and possibly beyond that. But those are generally just individual events like, I've got this magic tournament lined up that I'll be, guest artist at, and that'll be 5 months down the road. But I don't like to commit to commissions, art commissions, really more than a month and a half out. My schedule can change quite a bit. Like, I'll need to be moving again in the next month, which will be like the 6th time in 3 years. The people that recently bought the house that I'm renting decided they want to go in and renovate it, so I need to get out and find a new place while they can go do that. So I'm looking around for a new place now, and I'm glad that I don't have a lot of commissions lined up for the time that I will need to be moving stuff around. Bronitis says, I feel like physical therapist tips would be very helpful, especially to the young artists. Better prevent the problem before they occur. Yes, it is. One of those things that a lot of people just aren't taught about, and you don't think it's going to matter when you're young, but then it sure does. Luca says, nice day. I have to go. Well, thank you for coming by, Luca. I hope you enjoyed it. Castro 3D says, a question, do you have training material recommendations for drawing environments for illustration? Not specifically environments, no. I don't have any at this time. If I were to suggest, I'm going to say go check out FZD and his videos. He also has courses, I believe, on concept art, environment design. So go check out his stuff. He's a really knowledgeable source for that sort of thing. I personally don't have anything already made specifically on that topic. It is something that I could go over in a consultation, mentorship consultation. Hero says, how much does an average successful freelance illustrator or concept artist make a month? I would Google that. I mean, I know what I make, but I don't know if that's average or not. I'm trying to think if I can add much to that. I Googled that one time. I want to think like the average studio concept artist that had a not like the highest tier, but kind of like a mid-tier job, made something like 50,000. I mean, it was just above national average for here in the U.S. I know that it can go upwards of that if you're like a lead designer on a major company. It can probably make less than that. But again, freelance can really go up or down depending on what clients you pick up and how busy you stay. So it's probably going to be somewhere around the national average. I'm just going to guess. Some artists are cool on their videos, and on live stream, they're not even close to their personalities in their videos, and you're very down to earth, and I like that. You earned my respect, man. Well, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I try to be just me. It's too tiring to try to be somebody else. Itahisa says, thank you for your reply. Well, thank you for your question. Ben says, oh, okay, you're talking to him. All right. Oh, jumped again. Hang on. Antonio says, hey, Glenn, how are you? I'm good, thanks. I have a question. In addition to video games and movies, what other fields of work does a fantasy illustrator have? Well, of course, you have just straight up like classical paintings. There are certainly people that do that. And if you're good with, say, oil paintings, acrylics, anything on that line, then you could do kind of gallery shows of work and just sell original pieces. You could be doing your own work. Take Peter Moorbacher with Angelarium, where he's got his own intellectual property of Angelarium, and he does that through Patreon. And it is beautiful fantasy images that he makes one every month, and he shows you the creation process of that. He prints them on cards, he makes them into calendars, etc. That's also other work. What other fields of work does a fantasy illustrator have? You have your full illustrations. You also have your concept art. I mean, you could write or illustrate your own books if you wanted to, or if you wanted to do illustrations for books, have somebody else write them. That's an option. Depending on your style of work, you could even get into doing things like, digital, like an online comic, like a web comic. That's what I was trying to think of. Something on that line could be good. You could certainly do your own freelance illustration commissions of whatever people want done. You could do it that way too. So yeah, bunch of stuff. 12 says, I struggle to gather motivation to finish pieces. I will typically get around 40% finished and then start a new piece, then just never return to the original. Any tips to stop this? Yeah, I get where you're coming from, 12. If it was to me, a lot of my pieces wouldn't be nearly as finished as they are because I find the beginning process far more interesting and enjoyable than the finalizing. But I tell you what, you're robbing yourself if you don't see it through. One of the things is you're not getting to enjoy the full satisfaction of having a finished piece. And okay, let me bring this back. I read about something along this lines. It wasn't about finishing art pieces, but it was about finishing moderate goals in general. And they were saying one of the best ways to do this is to have a negative, there was a term for it, I can't remember what the term is, a negative consequence if you don't do it. Then it also has to be public. So an option would be, this month I'm going to be doing 2 finished illustrations. I'm going to do this illustration, I'm going to go do this illustration. You say what they are, you're going to say when they're going to be finished, and you're going to post them online. You let people know this and say, if I don't finish, then I have to donate X amount of money to these people that I don't like. Or I have to do this other thing that I don't like. And so you are committing before your friends who are going to not let you live it down and not let you get away with it if you don't do that thing. That sort of negative reinforcement can be powerful in getting you to do something that is really in your best interest. Other positive things is you choose to say, I am not going to let myself drink a soda or watch TV until I do this thing. So setting yourself some goals like that could be part of it. Yeah, that's probably enough on that question, but yeah, that gives you somewhere to go with it. Forever Broken says, hey, I know I didn't ask any question, but thank you for your reply about depression, suffering with it myself. I appreciate it. I just wish no one had to go through it. I wish the same thing. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are going through it just because of modern diet. Honestly, modern diet and the modern culture where people are very disconnected. As much as we are digitally connected to each other, loneliness is now considered an epidemic by multiple governments. And it is getting to just these huge proportions. I mean, a legit epidemic. And one of the things to realize is, like, chronic loneliness, which is usually, and I'm saying loneliness because loneliness and depression are really, really often linked. They're super connected. And chronic loneliness is worse for your overall health than smoking, I believe, 5 cigarettes a day. Or it's over a pack of cigarettes. It's a lot. It is worse for you than constant smoking. And it's just the stress that it puts on your body, the negative influences it puts on your body is terrible for your body. And for your eventual health's sake, it's got to be something that you make an effort to deal with, even though you don't have the energy to do it. Yeah, there's all kinds of other stuff it did. I pulled up the statistics recently, and it's pretty alarming. It's like it triples your chance for heart attack. It increases brain fog, all kinds of other terrible stuff. Frederick says, thank you for the answer. I quit my job to getting myself into digital paint, though depression is older that. Now I question myself and quit before getting good at printing and don't have any money to invest into. Okay, sounds like that kind of got cut off. I'm not sure there. Michael says, not a question, but something to add. I have an unnaturally ticklish back to the point where a trimmer during a haircut makes me jump, and I found putting one arm behind me, my back helps. That's pretty sensitive. I don't think I've ever had to jump from getting a haircut. Justice Dragon says, how do you work with healthcare as a freelancer? It's one of those things you have to personally finance. You got to do your own healthcare, do your own retirement accounts. So that also affects the money, of course. People might see, oh, you're going to make X amount of money from that commission. So that's awesome. If I made that much money, I'd be thrilled. I'd be rich. Well, a lot of people are not taking into account that most jobs cover your health care. They also help with like your 401k retirement, and they have like a matching plan for that. and for your dental and etc. And that's not covered. So you've got to spend a large chunk of your money to go for that. So yeah, Google around what's a good healthcare provider options for, like you would say, self-employed people who are self-employed, healthcare options. The one I've been working with is what was it, a MediShare. It's not a legit like health, not a healthcare provider. It's like major medical is the main thing. I can finance an individual doctor visit or stuff like that, and just going to a place because I don't go there very often, a chiropractor or something like that. It's the big ones that would absolutely ruin me, where you go to the hospital and you rack up like a $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 debt. And so major medical is, if you can only get one thing, that's what you're looking for. Frederick says, also the bar is so high that it makes me think the only way to get good is studying at schools. Don't waste your time or time will waste you. Oh, well, there's some truth in that. But one of the things to keep in mind is the market for artists and their work is very broad. I've said it before and I'll say it again, which is the artists are not separated into superstars and novices. There is a full gamut in between. And these people aren't necessarily going to take the same commissions and be looking for the same commissions that these people will take. And vice versa for these people. So just because you were maybe in this group and these group exist, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to find work. These people already found, these people may be working for Disney, they're working for Sony, they're working for Blizzard, and they're doing their own IPs. You're probably not looking at the same jobs. So you're not necessarily competing against them in a lot of times. And there are people who are looking for commissions at a rate different from what these people will be asking. So your superstars, might be saying, oh, hey, if you want me to work on your project, that's going to be 10 grand over the X amount of time. And the clients are going, oh, shoot, I don't have that. I mean, I've got $200. Is there anybody that can do this for $200? And you come along and say, hey, you know what? For $200, that's not unreasonable. I'll do that for you. So in that way, it's a really good fit. As far as schools can be good. But one of the things to keep in mind is all of the knowledge that you need to learn is already out there. And most of it is for free. And if you are enough self-motivated, then you can go out there and learn it on your own. And it might take a little bit longer, but it's still completely doable. I never went to college myself. I never went to a proper art school. I never took more than like a week-long traditional art work. And then same thing that I've talked to some of my students on the mentorship consultations, where it's, hey, if you can't take a workshop, if you can't go to a proper art school, then schedule a consultation and let's take a look at where you are in your work, give you some quick feedback, and then come back in 1 to 2 months, schedule another one. You don't necessarily need feedback all the time, but having 1, 2 months throughout the year, 6 times a year, just to say, okay, you're doing really good on that, let's adjust this. Watch out for this. Now going forwards for the next 2 months, let's focus on these things. And then you just kind of game plan along with your guy throughout the year. That could also be a good option. Justice says, how do you organize yourself with taxes? When it comes to taxes, find a tax guy. I'm not a tax guy myself. I talk to them. I have a, not a CPA, I forget what she's called. Anyway, maybe she's an accountant. That's what she is. Yeah, I have an accountant who does all of my like quarterly taxes, files everything for the, Tennessee and, wherever else, when I was in Hawaii, she was filing stuff for me in Hawaii. She makes sure that all the different stuff are paid, because you got to do things like, what's it called? Unemployment tax, that sort of stuff. And so she takes care of all of that. It would not be worth my time to do it. I mean, she's not inexpensive, but it would take me more time to do it than it's worth. So I just pay her to do that stuff. And then I have a CPA that does my yearly taxes. And that's where you want to meet with those guys. Otherwise, only thing that I really do myself is in my bank, I've got 2 different accounts for my business. One is my general fund where money comes in and out of that one. And that's where I spend the money out of that one. And then the other one is where I save money for taxes. So about 25% of any of the gross revenue that comes in for the business automatically gets put over into the tax account, so that I know that I'm covered for paying for taxes and paying for the accountant and for the CPA during the year. And it's not perfect, so sometimes I have to add a little bit more when it comes to the end of the year, or I have a little left over. But I've found about 25 is usually pretty good for putting over there. Brandon says, if you are hired by a company and everything goes well, does the company contact you for a next item, or do you contact them? If it's been a while, do you email them about availability? All of that is completely real option. So if the company does like what you do, there's a very real chance that they will contact you sometime down the road and say, hey, we've got this other thing, would you be interested? That would be normal. And it would also be normal if you have not heard from them in a while, just email them back and say, hey, I appreciate you giving me the chance to work on that project back there. I really enjoyed working with you. And I am planning out my next 2 months, and I wanted to check to see if there was any projects that I could schedule some time and, kind of like, do you have any projects coming up that I could work with? Because now is when I need to schedule out time for the future. And so in that way, it's actually like, hey, I was just thinking about you guys, and I want to give you first dibs on, finalizing my calendar, anything that I can put in there for you. And I've found that to be useful as well. And if you haven't heard from them, they're not going to be offended by that. Sometimes they just don't get back to you because they're maybe really busy in the office, and they don't have time to get to everybody. So it falls on your shoulders a little bit. Mark says, I'm 19, and a lot of my friends have OC, original characters, but I never created one. I mostly do splash art commissions and fan art. I get a bit jealous of them because I really want to make a character and draw it all the time. I think one of the most popular OCs is Pepper from DeviantArt. Is I think where I first saw Pepper, and he's done a lot with Pepper over the years, and it's got him a lot of followers and probably made him a good deal of pocket change as well. So not a bad thing to do. I personally, I don't really have any original characters. I've sketched, obviously, I've made up a lot of people, but not like somebody that's a real recurring character. Noah says, Clint, currently I'm more of a cartoonist, but I would like to learn more about digital painting. but I'm struggling at rendering an environment painting. Will you kindly break down the workflow or steps? Oh, it's probably not within the purview of this video to do it any real justice. I'm going to suggest not to just try to sell you something, but go out to the swatchesart.com store, and there's two different videos that you should pay attention to. One is the painting process, which is one of the newest ones that I've put out. And it literally, that's what the whole thing is. Start to finish, 10 steps of going about doing a painting, whatever that painting might be, and what you should be doing at each stage, kind of giving you examples of the information that you should be getting, what your sketches might look like, what some of your reference images should be, and it just takes you through the whole thing. That would probably be well worth your time to pick up. If you want to see me doing it on my own pieces, look for one like the Making Magic, Painting Liliana, Painting Jace. Those show it as well. So that would be my best option that I can give you right now. Ben says, it feels like making art at a level where you can compete professionally takes so much practice that long hours alone indoors seems inevitable. No wonder so many artists suffer depression. It's true. You know, it is not conducive for a social life. And that it's actually one of the detriments to being a freelance artist, and one of the positives for having a studio position. Studio position, you get to work around other artists on a daily basis, and that's probably good for your social life unless you just really don't like those people. So that is one thing to consider. Also, if you do have a family, though, that can help. If you do have, you know, a wife or a husband at home, and you have kids at home, that can help. If you have other artist friends in the area, you could even think about renting like an office, and literally you have your work area there in the office with, you know, 2 or 3 other artists. And even though you're not necessarily working on the same thing, you're not necessarily a team, you are able to be around each other, and that can be good too. I've actually found that having Twitch playing when I'm working, you know, Twitch live streams, actually helps it to a small degree, because it is going on live, and depending on how big a stream you're joining, if you're joining like a smaller stream that doesn't have that many viewers, they're prone to being much more likely to interact and feed off of you. Most streamers out there like that are looking for people to talk to them, the same way like I am right now. I'm completely dependent on you guys communicating with me. So that can actually give you some interaction during the day. So anyway, small things. Nat says, could you tell, I'm shortening your name to Nat because I don't know how to pronounce that. Could you tell the youngsters about the learning curve, the reality, how to get demoralized and keep it up, keep pushing, then find ways to express your artistic language and build up your business? I do talk about that some in an older video. It's a rather earnest video called The Attribute. The Attribute. It's the one attribute that all successful artists share. And you could go back and watch that if you want. But the reality is, it takes time. If you want to make a living at this, if that's sort of the goal, then keep in mind this. If you treat it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. If you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. A lot of people want to treat art like a hobby and hope that it pays them like a business. Ain't going to happen. All right? If you go into it like a hobbyist, you're going to be as skilled as a hobbyist. But if you take this serious, if this is a job and you're going to treat it like you are a professional at this job, you're a skilled worker in this field, then you need to have professional skills. So you've got to put in that amount of time. The rule of thumb that you hear tossed around a lot is 10,000 hours to master something. And there's been people come out and try to bunk that. It's not really 10,000 hours. You can do it faster than that. Yeah, you can do it faster. If you have a prodigious talent for the field and you get excellent instructions, and there are ways to speed it up. But I have found it to be fairly accurate between people trying to learn how to play guitar and have a masterful level at guitar, to playing chess, to doing artwork. 10,000 hours seems pretty accurate. Now, I don't think that you need that many hours in order to start working professionally. I've seen people start picking up professional work at half that time. So, but it's real. It's a real time investment. And one of the things to keep in mind is you've got to be able to enjoy the process. You have to keep enjoying it. It's too much work if you're not going to enjoy it. If you go in there and you treat it like this is just a pain or an inconvenience, then you need to go find something else that you love doing. Too much work, life is too short, and life is too long to do something like that you don't like. And building up your business, that can take some time too. Some people fall right into it and they get a lot of work very quickly, and all it takes is getting picked up by the right person, or your image is shared on the right website. But there is a lot of strategy. It's certainly not luck. There are a lot of things that you personally can do, and it is your responsibility to get your artwork out there and find good jobs for you. Completely doable. It is completely doable. I think we're going to just take... I think we'll close it up here at 8 o'clock for me, which is in 8 minutes. So I'll just take a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up at 8. I've got to get back to a D&D image that I need to get wrapped up in the next week. So, Nose says, I wonder if there should be a public art studio or library where artists and designers come to work on their own stuff. Yeah, there is places sort of like that. I was looking into one if I moved back to Fort Worth, and it's sort of like an open office. So let me give the example of what it was down there and then equate that. So a company came into what used to be I think it was an old manufacturing building, big brick building near downtown Fort Worth. And it really wasn't usable for much. So they went in there and they put up a bunch of walls. They made some big open lounge areas with couches and coffee bar and stuff. And then they have offices. Yeah, just a regular office and individual office rooms. And so people that are basically self-employed can rent one of the offices. And so they go to work and they go to their office in this building, and only they have, key card or whatever to that particular office, and they get to work there. But then there's other people doing completely different other kinds of jobs in all of the other offices. And everybody has access to the lounge room and to the coffee area. Then they have like food vendors that come up, like food trucks or something that come up every day if you want to go down there and get lunch there. And it's a pretty interesting idea. The pricing of that particular location was fairly high. It was something like $800 a month for one office, which I thought was a bit high for what I would get out of it. But you might have an affordable option like that around you, so you could look into something like that. Yeah, it looks like some other people are kind of talking along that same point. So, yep, thinking along the same lines. I personally would find that very interesting. I've thought about trying to put something together along that lines for people that would want to live in the same area, and each person could have their own office or studio area. One of the things that as artists that we would have to do is make sure that like everyone's door would essentially have to be tinted, because people would be working on confidential information, and I could not let anybody see my screen when I'm working on magic stuff that is, under confidentiality clause. So only some of the stuff could I let be seen, and you'd have to deal with that aspect of it. So, but I think it would be neat, like if you had an office, but then you could also rent, this is my easel area in the, the live painting area, and maybe you get a cart that comes with your easel, and everybody has access to, some of the community paints and that sort of thing. Anyway, it'd be cool. I think maybe you could have like demos, all right? And you bring in people that do demonstrations like once a month or something, and you have Pizza Fridays. That'd be nice. Yeah, there's some more down here. I'm just trying to scroll down to see where the last one was that I missed. Um, I'm sure I've probably missed some. I apologize if I have. Hubsu says, Swatch is not sure if this has been asked before, but what do you listen to whilst you're working? If anything, podcast or music recommendations? Yeah, I listen to a variety of things. Sometimes I stream Twitch streamers, sometimes art people, sometimes people just like playing Fortnite. I will also listen to audiobooks, so I have an audio account. The thing that I have listened to more than anything else is the Harry Potter audiobooks narrated by Mr. Dale. Dale did it for the US audience, and then the other fella did it for, I think, the UK audience. But I love his narration of it. I've listened to every book multiple times. I also have my YouTube music list, and I'll listen through that. Also like the piano guys. A lot of times I don't like listening to music where it has lyrics. For some reason, just the way my brain works, it takes more to process lyrics than it does just instruments. So something like the piano guys. Also listen to soundtracks, like almost anything by James Horner or Hans Zimmer, are both really great for me. I love both of them. Or if I do like play a video, I'm usually playing like a movie or TV series that I've seen before, and then I'm not as distracted by it. So, watching Deep Space Nine for the fifth time. So, something like that. Or YouTube, I'll watch my, like my Brendan Burchard self-growth or business videos. I do watch quite a few of those as well. Annette says, is there any live? Is there any live when you're painting in time? Sorry, I'm a newcomer. I follow you like 1 year, but just joined your direct community since your last live chat. Okay, well, welcome. Thanks for joining the community. And I assume that watching me paint live, no, I don't. It goes back to the confidentiality thing where almost everything that I work on is under a confidentiality agreement, which means that I cannot release or show the images until the company does so. And there's usually about a 9-month lag between when I finish an image and when that image is able to be viewed. If I do end up, actually, I've been thinking about this. If I do end up moving here to town and out of the country house that I'm in, then there is a lot better chance that I will be able to get better internet. And if that's the case, then I am probably going to change things up where I will be doing streaming and I will be doing live painting out on Twitch, maybe YouTube. I'm not, maybe a mix, I don't know. And it would be for more personal stuff or open commissions where it's not under confidentiality. And I would be happy to show that sort of stuff and hang out with you guys during the day. But that's only if I get to move to somewhere with better internet. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up there. It is 8 o'clock. So we've been going for right about 2 hours. I appreciate everybody coming out. And I hope you have enjoyed this on your Friday evening. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. I will be working through most of my weekend. I will probably take off about half a day on Sunday, and that'll be sort of the extent of my weekend. And then also, remember, if you're going to be in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, not this weekend, but the following weekend, then come out and see me. I will be at the Star City Games Magic Tournament. It's listed as Dallas, but it'll actually be in Fort Worth because Fort Worth Convention Center is much cheaper and easier to get to. And I would love for anybody to come up there and just say, hey man, I watch you on Swatches, wanted to come say hi and come on by. And I'd love to chat with you. Maybe we go to lunch or something. So let me know and I'll try to keep an eye out for you. But thanks for joining the stream. Next week, no stream. Next week I will be out of town. I will be on the road or I will already be in Texas. So make sure that you're not doing that. I'll try to put a reminder out on the Facebook group. But wrapping it up there, have a great weekend. Catch you next time.